I have to thank for our being able to be here today. And of course, number one on the list is the Palm Beach County Library for giving us access to this room. Because certainly we don't have access to Bill Borghese. That was a dig in case you missed it. Okay. There are a lot of people here I have to thank. Certainly for all of the people up here on the platform with me, their spouses, Bill Jaffe, Marvin Gerstein, Mike Roberts, Mike and Marie Lepori, and especially Marty Greenlinger, who has provided us with the sound system so that I don't have to scream. The script for today's activities is as follows, which will be followed. I will give you a brief history of what got us to this particular point, and certain of the board members will make comments, proposed board members will make comment. At that point, those of us that are running to replace the existing board members will have a chance to review their qualifications. Then we will, after that, discuss issues and our plans for the future. There will be a Q&A period where you'll stand, state your name, and if you do so desire, you can tell us how you voted on the refurbishment. You don't have to do that. And then there will be a summary. I have to say this to you. After all of this is over, and this will come to a point where it's over, we have to figure out how to live together as friends in our community. And that is more important than anything. Because if we can't function together, we have nothing. I want to introduce some of the people up on the platform here. To my immediate right is Peter Hess. Right? Right? Okay. Ray Kicken. Linda Tannen.
No,
Marilyn Gale.
Paula.
Paula Tannen, right? Marilyn Gale. Two of the people running with us are not here. They're out of town. One is Joanne Petersill and the other is Mark Silverman. And as I said, I'm going to start with a brief history of what got us here. Some of you may know a lot about what happened. I hope, after I'm finished, to have been able to give you some information, because I've heard so many conflicting stories, and maybe we can put some of those issues to bed. So here we have a recall. How did we get to this? Certainly, it's never been tried in Villa Borghese before, and I was on the first board. That was in 2001. And that's all we're going to discuss. So here's a brief overview of what got us to this point, which leaves out a lot. I'm sorry for that. 1. In the last half of 2016, the board passed the 2017 budget, which was its plan of operation. There was no mention of the refurbishment. Nor was there ever any mention in 2017 of an amendment to the budget. And that's the plan. If they're going to change it, they have an obligation to be honest with us. 2. During 2017, the VB board established an advisory group as a non-committee committee. The problem here was that there are two kinds of organizations at Villa Borghese. There are clubs and there are committees. And if you're a member in good standing, which means you pay your dues timely, then you are eligible to join any committee. That's in the rules. That was passed when I was part of the Rules Committee with Henry Scheer, and we adopted this close to 10 years ago. And here the board decided to create an arrangement to give the people on the board control over a committee that they decided to call something else. That really hurt us. Number 3, in November of 2017, and we don't know the date, the board president signed a contract with Pierce committing to $60,000 of costs, plus many extras, whether or not any renovation occurred. Total costs to date are in excess of $100,000. 4, in 2018, the board completed its refurbishment plan, which included many capital items, and scheduled a vote after the snowbirds left, which was to be answered in 2 weeks. Under pressure, it was extended to 3 weeks, but no cost details were forthcoming. At a board meeting 72 hours before mailing out the ballots, the board claimed they did not know the total costs, the details to the cost, or how it was to be paid. They hid the capital project costs so that a 2/3 vote of all residents could be avoided in conflict with our documents, and buried $450,000 of costs in the reserves, reducing the reserves to under a $400,000 balance against approximately a $6 million potential reserve cost, telling us that the reserves were okay. The vote was held, and it was a resounding defeat for the board, 224 for, 266 against. Based upon the no votes of 266, the board would have needed 532 votes to pass, and they were short by 380. But only 68 people did not vote. You'll hear other information about how they were short. Hey, I played with numbers all my life, so mess around right now. The board blamed the defeat on people who could not afford it, but never before had 490 votes been cast in any election. The community overwhelmingly responded to a lack of disclosure, disdain, antagonism, and failure of the board to deal with the documents. In a response to the defeat, the board took 2 actions. It named an unelected director to a 2-year term, giving it control of the board until December of 2019, and prohibited the Current Events Club to discuss the assessment in the clubhouse. 7, it should be noted that during 2017, the board took it upon themselves to change annual board elections from 7 each year to staggered terms. No board had ever considered doing this, as this was always an issue most felt should have been voted on by the whole community. It was not a shock that they could do it. The concerned residents of VB organized in 2018 to fight the board. After the assessment defeat, we thought the issue was over. Until the next December 2018 election. But the board, packing the board until December of 2019 and cutting off access to our use of the clubhouse, showed us that they thought they could stampede over us. We had no other option but to start a recall, and that is where we are today. We were asked, why didn't you fight them with an attorney instead of doing a recall? No. They have unlimited funds and we don't. They can stall forever. Our only option was the recall. I'm going to call on some of the board members, oh no, some of the prospective people running for the board who want to make some comments. And then we'll go into individual prospective board members' plans. Peter, you want to start? Peter does.
Hi, everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm Peter Hess, one of the candidates running for a place on the board. I live at 7391 Viale Angelo. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for attending this meeting. I believe that it's important for you to hear from the concerned VB committee why we feel a recall is necessary. I'd like to give you a short synopsis of my background that I feel will make you feel comfortable in realizing why I'm a qualified candidate to be on the board. First of all, my working career started as sales and promotion manager for a large record company. We had artists such as the Cordettes, Everly Brothers, Andy Williams, and quite a few others. After a short retirement, I started a new career in the insurance business that lasted for almost 40 years. I helped bring the first annuities to the marketplace. During my working career, I was also able to function as the president of our temple on Long Island. As president, I oversaw the redecoration of our temple and the hiring of a new rabbi. When I moved to a condo, I was on the board of the condo. Again, when I moved to a co-op in New York, I became involved on their board as well. I believe that with all the experience that I've had in these positions, I can be a great help to our board at VB. I know that once you hear our need to replace the board, I hope you will see fit to sign the recall applications. I've heard at various board meetings that we all should be happy and be a happy community and let bygones be bygones. We should not dwell on the past, and we should go forward. These are nice statements. Let's really look at the facts. I believe that everybody has the right to their opinions and should have the right to express them. The board, on the other hand, feels that only the people that agree with them have the right to talk at the board meetings, and try to shut down those opposed to them, as we've seen at the last meeting. Okay, well, get a little upset. The clubhouse belongs to the community, and if a group wishes to have a meeting, they've got a right to use the clubhouse. The board, however, refused to allow the Current Events Club to hold its meeting because they were to discuss current events, i.e., the reason for the recall. The board has set up a committee to call people and warn them that if they vote for the recall, they'll be held to pay. That's right. Residents?
Please, if you have something to say, hold it to Q&A. The speaker has the right to finish his comments.
Residents have blackballed some of the people who are on the recall committee, and they've even said they really don't want them at some card games or bar show. One of the board members gave the finger to a member of the committee as he was walking away from one of the board members. Another one said that if you don't like what the board is doing, too bad. The president said at the board meeting, if you don't like what the board recommends, move. Another board member called a member of our committee the B word. Do you wonder why some people say there is too much animosity in the community? It's because of these type of actions that the board has taken and the rudeness of the people who are opposed to the recall. All of these things are petty, annoyances, and they have brought neighbor against neighbor. The reason why the committee has recommended the recall are much more serious. Let's look at what the board has done over the last year. Number one, they hired a law firm that seems to rubber stamp everything they want, even though our docs say the opposite. An example is the ability for the board to spend more than $10,000 without the community's approval. Two, the board selected 2 new board members without the approval of the community. 3, the board decided that 4 members of the board would have 2-year terms, again, without the community agreeing to it. They assigned one of the 2 members that approved that was appointed to a 2-year term. So that means even if a vote is taken as normal in December, the board still will be controlled by the same board. Another reason for the recall. The board, so that a new slate of directors will have a chance to right the ship. They don't want that to happen. That will be transparent. That will be transparent in the future if we don't get the recall. We all know that the board spent $60,000 to pay the architect. Again, something that was prohibited by the bylaws. But what happened before the community was told about this expenditure, they tried to hide it from all of us by splitting the cost into 2 parts, not showing the charge as an expense from our reserves. After we were told about the expense, they again misspoke about the actual costs that we had to pay the architect. I personally asked at a board meeting if the $60,000 included the renderings. I was told they were included, and then only after we found out that the cost was actually $105,000, it did not include the renderings or any other costs. Again, the question is, why were we misled? We were told this is another good one. We were told we should have looked at the contract. I think that's the board's job, that then come back to us and tell us what the real story is. I believe at this point, the board has overstepped its fiduciary responsibilities and cost our community needless expenses. The board knew in advance what the cost would be, but tried to hide the actual costs from the community. Now that the costs of the fiasco are known, they tried to have the costs hidden again. They did not have a line item in our June 30th financial reports stating that they had spent the $105,000. Again, that should have been mandatory. And then there's another thing. I don't know how many people here are familiar with the problems that we're having with AT&T.
Really?
Oh, the problems aren't the problem, but the costs of your problems are going to be. Right now, your dues have gone up by $50. Next year, they're going up again. And next year, they're going to go up again until we will be paying more than we're paying now for what we paid at home for our Comcast, because each one has an individual bill from Comcast. Now, your HOA dues are going to go up. And if you want to sell your house, you're going to be one of the highest HOAs in the area. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Well, excuse me, ma'am, but so far, the Budget Committee has stated that we need at least another $47 this year based upon what we have. Okay, that brings you up to $500 a month. And $500 brings you at the high point of all the big shots in the area. So again, I believe that all the board's missteps and this honesty to the community, there is a necessary need for this recall. Thank you.
Greg, would you like to make some comments?
Why don't we pass it?
Okay.
I just want to say that when I was growing up, it was very important in my family tell the truth. My mother was insistent she should rest in peace, and always knew if I didn't. I'm a very trusting person. I believe what you tell me. I like to know the truth. I can deal with the truth. I can't be told something and then find out later it's not so. And that's what I found out at our meetings. I'm living here for 19 years. I've been very involved in the community. I belong to all the committees. I did the refurbishment the last time around with a committee that anybody could join. And from that committee, they elected me to be the chairperson, and they elected the group that would work with the decorator. We did not have a set committee. Anybody that wanted to be on it and partake could. I feel it was wrong because several people have come to me and said, gee, I wanted to be on the refurbishment committee. I wasn't allowed. I said, that's ridiculous. Everybody is allowed, but not the way this board's set up. And this board lies. And I don't know about anybody else. I just went to a Budget and Finance Committee, and the chairperson of the Budget and Finance Committee also said, well, if we don't have the money, we're just going to raise, and then there'll be assessments. And this is right to my ears with other people in the room, so we can't be contradicted that this didn't happen. And I just lost my train of thought. He also said that if you can't afford to live here, move. I did not move into a Valencia. I moved in here. I knew what came with this facility. I love our community. And I don't want to have to pay the same HOA dues and have it brag that I'm paying the same as the Valencias. If we go to sell our homes, we do not have the amenities that the Valencias have. And we're not going to get the money that the Valencias can achieve. And I think it's very unfair for all the people. I know I have been making phone calls, and people have told me how they've been threatened, that if they don't go another way. And I refuse to be called a liar, because I don't believe in lying. And that was said to me. And I think it's sad that it's come down to this, that we are now considered the bad people because we care about the community. We did nothing wrong. We try, a lot of people live here and they're not involved and they don't know what goes on. They live in their homes. I had older women tell me, oh, please tell me what you're talking about. I don't even understand what's going on. We never told them how to vote. We just said it's important that you vote, that your voice should be heard. And if you want to continue living here, unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are on fixed incomes, that it's going way above and beyond. And the attitude that's being taken is, well, we'll just assess you if we don't have enough of the reserves. We're just going to raise 50 in January, then there'll be another raise, and then you'll get assessed. And I don't want to deal with that. I don't think it's fair. I think that people should be told what's going on and not hidden everything. I think people could deal if you're honest with them. And if you hide everything as far as the costs that were going on with the refurbishment, nobody was against the refurbishment. I personally was against it because it was being done in 7 years and every other community does them in 10, except for things that might have needed. And I'll go along with the outdoor furniture in the pool because that's outside and it's really warm. And it's one because it is outdoor furniture, that I'll go along with. Everything else in the clubhouse could have waited the 10 years until we had money in the reserves to back it, and that if the money was withdrawn, it wasn't going to deplete our funds. And these are things that people, and I think that's why we got the turnout and why people didn't vote for the refurbishment. And it's sad because I love to see the refurbishment when it's time. Now it's another 2 years till, and then hopefully we will have the money to do it. So I just don't like being blamed for wanting to help a community and caring about the community that I live in. And being shunned and people saying, oh, you are the bad guy. We're not doing the name calling. However, we're being called names, and it's hurtful. And it's hurtful on our side. And I think if the community wants to get together, it has to really readjust and rethink and work together to achieve all the common goals that everybody wants. And that's about it.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Galen. A lot of you probably don't know me because I hide incognito. I work full-time until the second week in September, and then I can become a lot more active in the community, which I have not done in 19 years. I just want to say one thing before I get on to my platform of what I would like to see in the community. I have made a few friends. I have gained many friends since I have decided that, you know what, I'd like to be active on the board. I'd like to try and do something. People have often said to me, why don't you run? Why don't you run? I can't, I work full time. Then when I come home, I have my housework and things to do. But I do want to become involved. One thing I want to say is the people that I thought were my friends, and when I walk into the clubhouse just to see what the activities are that are coming up, I'm shunned. I've had them turn their back on me. I've told them to get out of this neighborhood. I've gotten emails. I've gotten phone calls. They know where I work. I've even gotten phone calls at work. I'm appalled at this, and I'm hurt by this. Because I've kept my nose clean for 19 years. I don't think I've hurt anyone in Villa Borghese. But to turn your back on me, cancel social engagements, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I have worked since I graduated college. I've been in the medical field. I've done marketing. I'm originally from North Carolina and transplanted to Baltimore, where I worked for a group of physicians that I had employees for 20 plus years that never once walked out of the door, never once handed in a resignation. We got along. And if there was something in the office that needed to be discussed, we sat down as a group and we were open about it and we discussed it. This should be, this shouldn't be. We were honest with one another. And I pat myself on the back for that because this is how things should be in a workplace, in a community. Let's be open. Let's talk about it. The things that hurt me the most, well, one of the things that hurt me the most is when I took off for work one day and came to a meeting on a Friday afternoon. I did research for many days because I thought, you know, we're going to spend so much money on this refurbishment, but what happens if the roof blows? What happens if something happens to this roof and we spent all this money on refurbishment and not just a little bit of redecorating? When I got up to speak, I was immediately told to sit down. The mic was taken away from me. I did not appreciate that. I took my time, my efforts of doing a lot of research. And that's one thing I like to do. If you tell me to do something, I have to research it first to make sure it's going to be for the good, not for the bad. I didn't appreciate being told to get out of the community and go to hell. I don't like it. It hurts. I have not done one thing to Villa Borghese to receive the ill feelings that have come across me. I did go to the pool a few times. I was not allowed to sit with the people that I used to sit with. we don't want you sitting here. Okay, fine, I'll sit on my patio. I don't really care anymore. I'm a grown woman. Quiet. You know, we are going to have a question and answer. If you have something to say about what I'm saying, and if you want to respond, then get up during your question and answer and tell me to my face. I don't appreciate it. I think at my age, now that I am on the brink of retiring in a few weeks, I want to enjoy where I live. I love my home. I can't pick my house up and put it somewhere else. I used to love the community, even though I couldn't participate with anything or anyone. Now that I can, I want to participate. But I don't want to get up at a board meeting and have my 3 minutes cut off to 30 seconds. My platform is, if I could be elected to go on the board just for a short period of time so that I could be trusted and you can trust me. You want 3 minutes? Take 3 minutes. You want 5 minutes? Take 5 minutes. I am not one to say, sit down, that's not necessary. You're not allowed to talk. I'm not a child. None of us are children anymore. We did this in grade school. But this community is split in half, maybe in thirds, I don't know. But it's got to come together. Whenever I got up at a meeting and I wanted to find out how much something is going to cost, or what is this or what is that, if it came to money, the microphone was taken away and I had to talk like this, where no one could hear me. Is that fair? Is that mature? Is that how a board treats the residents? When the president of the board gets up and says, we want respect. You treat this board with respect. What about the residents? Do we not get to be treated with respect? I have not been treated with respect in over 6 months of living in Villa Borghese. And it's got to end. Honesty. The truth. We need to be able to ask a board member, how much is this going to cost? What are your plans to do about this? How about taking that mirror down that's 12 feet high and I can't see how to put on my eyeshadow? Come on, people. We need to have a board of directors that we can trust, that will give us answers now, not 5 minutes before a vote, not even after a vote. How much? What is that, a line item? How much did that cost? What are you going to spend? Well, that's another $4,000. That's another $3,000. You pay your HOA, but from what I understand, it's going to go up. And someone just wrote on Nextdoor, well, if you want to get your neighbors so that they have to move, and this is because they can't stand to be in Villa Borghese, they're not going to be able to afford to move if they can afford to stay in Villa Borghese. If you've looked at the home prices past going into Boynton, the prices have gone up. We live in a beautiful community, but unfortunately, it's not happy. Thank you. It's not a happy community anymore. I want to be able to walk into a club and not have someone turn their back on me just because I want someone to be honest with me. My parents raised me to be honest, to be truthful. And if you can't look someone in the eye and talk to them, then they're not telling you the truth. If they cut you off in mid-sentence, they're not going to tell you the truth. It's time we get an honest board. It's time to lay down our swords and be congenial. Do you stop talking to someone because you didn't want Trump to run for president? You wanted Hillary to run for president? Do you stop talking to the people that voted? Well, then maybe you should stop. Lay down your little swords. We're not children anymore. Just because I want someone to be honest with me, just because I don't like the board, doesn't mean you have to stop talking to me and cancel a social engagement. It's time. It's past time. Thank you.
Can everybody see me okay? Yes.
The mic's too big.
A lot of my career, I spoke to groups 10 times this size. And it was one of the things that I had to grow accustomed to was speaking about subjects a lot was just impromptu. I've been sitting here and I have been looking and scanning this audience. And I have been seeing the same behavior that has been exhibited on Nextdoor. There is a lot of mudslinging. There's very little looking at the facts. Who in this room has experience with a strategic plan? Anyone? A strategic plan is the lifeblood of a business. It tells you where you want to go, how much it's going to cost you, and how long it's going to take you to get there. It creates innovation within a business. I was always taught a plan is made to be broken as long as you meet it. Now, I have yet to hear any discussions from the board in a business-like way about a 1, 3, 5-year plan. Does anyone in this room, has anyone worked with a 1, 3, 5 on an ongoing basis? Quite a few. Well, you're an accountant, so you would know. Welcome, come on in. One of the rules that I learned in business was that I don't have to like you to do business with you. I just have to respect you to do business with you. This community has eroded to non-respect. I've watched it in the 4th row on that side. It is not something that we should be proud of. What we should be proud of is that we have a beautiful community, that we are all working together in order to raise our home values, and that we want to remain competitive. Now, in order to remain competitive, you have to understand who? Your competitors. In the last budget and finance meeting at which I was present, the statement was made, well, do you want to be just like, what was the name of that community? No. You want to be just like them? They don't spend any money, they don't do anything. That, in fact, I even heard it tonight. If we become board members, we are going to demolish the clubhouse, we're going to blow up the pool, and we're going to go house to house with rifles. We're going to get you out on the street, put you on trains, and get you out of the community.
Where are you sending us?
Well, listen, it's a one-way ticket, a place you'll live.
St. Andrews.
The fact of the matter is that when I became president of Boca Greens, the first thing I said to the board was, the spending in this community is out of control. Why? Because there's no plan. So, for example, in Villa Borghese, the common thing to say is, hell, we don't have to pave the roads. Who cares? Kick the can down the road. All right. So if you're going to pave the roads in 20 years, where's the money going to be? Well, I don't have to worry about that. That's for the young people to worry about. Fact of the matter is, at the last Budget and Finance, we were talking about diseased trees. How much are the diseased trees going to cost to replace? Don't know. The sprinkler system. There are issues with the sprinkler system. What is the exposure? Does everybody know what the business word exposure means? How much is it going to cost us? What's the exposure? Don't know. What about the front entrance? You talk about curb appeal. Go to a Valencia. Look at the road leading up to their community. Can we not agree that they're gorgeous? Look at our front entrance. You got broken pavers, dirty pavers. It looks, for lack of a better word, looks verschlepped. You didn't think I was Jewish, did you? So, listen, folks, we're fighting over a $2.2 or $2.3 million refurbishment. We're talking about money that is not there. We're talking about money that is not there. You are going to be assessing the community without an understanding of what the long-term needs are of this community. You understand that when you repave a road, what is the cost based upon? Oil. What is oil doing right now? Okay? Have we brought in hard drives and said to them, if we had to pave it now, what would it cost? And if we took out an option with you in, say, 10 years, what can we negotiate? My wife mentioned to me during the night, we couldn't sleep. Actually, I got up to go to the bathroom. I came back. She said, "Hi, Greg." So she said, a very, very good business idea. If we have diseased trees, why haven't we been replacing them a year at a time? Instead of coming to the point where, oh my God, we've got to replace all these trees. Worse yet, what is our bill going to be for the grass? Well, it's going to cost $1 million. Okay, where's the money? So you start adding up all the needs of the community, and you get a pretty quick idea that we're really not thinking in terms of strategic planning. 1 through 5, what are the primary needs of this community? And then let's address them in the budget, and let's talk about it as a community. Let's all have a meeting. Let's do the old corporate PowerPoints and say, we've determined these are the top 5 needs. This is how much it's going to cost. Now, how are we going to actually, here's a corporate word for you, digest that? How are we going to pay for it? This isn't rocket science. But the way that the community is being managed currently is not addressing anything more than people's desires to keep up with other communities. But the point has yet to be made. Why? Well, it says in the documents, every 10 years. Where? Well, look at Bellagio. They told me their home prices are going up, the president of the board tells me. So what did I do? I got on the internet. Guess what? Bingo. They're at parity with us after they redid their clubhouse. What other excuse do you want to give the community? Is it a true need? If it's a true need, then let's determine in a business-like way, how do we address it? Do we need to accumulate the money and then do it? Do we need to do it piecemeal? How do we do it piecemeal? Who's going to do it? How much is it going to cost? Instead of, well, guess what? Bingo! 3 days before everything went out, we didn't know how much this was going to cost, but guess what? It just came to us. Now we know. And I would dare say, if this had been handled in a completely different manner, if the board had come to the community and said, here's the contract, 60 grand, $20,000 if we do not use them, but we use his drawings. Does everybody know there's 20 grand buried in there? And for every picture he's going to create, it's going to cost $4,200. So based upon a forecasted cost in other communities, this is going to cost this community X to Y. Now the question is, how do we pay for it? Do you folks want an assessment? The reality of any community is what? You are only as strong as your weakest link. If you have people in the community who cannot afford the assessment, you don't condescend to them and tell them that we will implement a payment plan.
Right.
Rather, we have to be aware that there are folks in the community who are not as well off as others. Tzedakah? So, am I kind of making sense?
Yes.
There has to be a game plan. You know, I played football. And it was always banged into my head by my linebacker coach. You don't move without knowing the play. When I was a corporate executive, I ran North America. I was told, you do not do anything without a plan. Nothing. That's the way an HOA should be run. And we'll all be happier because we'll all have an understanding of where we're going and how we're going to get there. But the fact of the matter is, we're all not going to be happy, but we're all going to be able to get along with one another. And provided that we don't force our perspective upon others, believing that our perspective is right and others is wrong or are wrong, we can get along fine, right?
I know you haven't listened to me for a while, so. Two things. As far as my resume was concerned, I should have pointed out, I've been a resident here since 1999, one of the originals. I served on the first board of directors as the treasurer. I served a later term as a director. I was the head of the Budget and Finance Committee, the Reserve Study Committee. I was on the Painting Committee, the Landscape Committee, the Legal Committee, the Tennis Committee, and various clubs, including Current Events, which I took over close to 10 years ago when Larry Schwartz retired CPA. I had my own practice. I was involved in real estate and construction as a principal. And my thoughts about this recall.
Did you have a plan?
We need a board that can balance many agendas: proper and honest leadership, openness, financial and cost control, care for our appearance, protection of our services such as the clubhouse, the pool, the tennis, the arts, the clubs. Most important, the reserves, which have not been maintained. And the most important factor, I think, is respect for a board that respects all of us. I think I can, along with our friends who have volunteered, take on the responsibility to provide competent and honest leadership, which the current board has lost sight of. This will be difficult to turn around. We need commitment and people who will perform in our interests. We need your help, and we will be proud to serve. That's what I had to say about me. But let's talk about what our plans are here. This originally started as the issue of the refurbishment. Certainly that was important. But as I tried to point out earlier, that issue ended after the vote. It was over, finished. But the board took those two actions, the packing and the closing down of, just discussions. And some of you may have been at a board meeting where I was cut off after 15 seconds. That's all it took them to shut me up, because they didn't want to hear what I had to say. You should ask yourself a question. If you have somebody who does not object to a bad deed, is that acquiescence? Well, this current board, and I'm looking at you, Jerry Auerbach, this current board has acted in concert. To the best of my knowledge, there has never been any disagreements on the board. And when the board decided to cut me off, that's when this thing reached an intolerable level. I deserved as much respect as anybody else. If I had something to say, I certainly thought after all the years I had been involved here, let me get up and say my piece. In fact, when we had our meetings in the community, in the clubhouse, never once did I say to somebody, you can't speak. We even eliminated the 3-minute rule. If you had something to say, you deserved the opportunity to say it, and whether you agreed or disagreed with somebody else, supposed to be adults about the way we disagree even. And that's what happened here. The board lost the ability to see beyond the fact that they wanted that refurbishment, and they were not going to tolerate dissent under any circumstances, whether it was Marilyn or Paula or myself or others who got up and it was shut down. What did it tell us? What do we need on a board? Because this is number one. Number one, we need honesty and integrity. We need openness to the community. We need respect for all. We need commitment. We need cooperation. And we gotta recognize you can't have everything you want. So you have to make hard choices. Do you do 6 of this or 8 of that? What if you can't do it all? What comes first? Sure, there was the specific issue. We've got a big budget problem right now. It's not even finished, but it already calls for $47 a month as an increase. Our reserves are woeful shame. The last study 3 years ago had a cost of $5.6 million, and at the time, that number, $5.6 million, has now gone to probably in excess of $6 million. All you have to do is take a look at the building on 441 and ask yourself, with all of this building, what has happened to construction costs? It's not just, as Greg said, that it's the cost of oil that's going up. We're talking construction. And with all of that building, You're looking now at houses that have a base number for maybe 16 or 1,800 feet of over 400,000, and by the time those people move in, it's 5, 6, 7 or more. You want to talk about an inflation rate. Inflation is one of the main factors, is supply and demand. And right now, demand in this area is pretty damn strong. So that 5.6 is probably 6.5 3 years later. And what was there in the reserves? When it was 5.6, the reserves were only 14% funded. How much was the refurbishment? If you're going to spend 400,000, because that was the current need, how much is 14% of 400,000? Give me a number. 56,000? If they hadn't overspent the refurbishment 7 years ago, and it had only been on balance, at most you would have had right now $56,000 approximately to fund another 450,000. How much do you just rob Peter to pay Paul? Yet, where's the answers? Where is the money coming from? When the assessment went down, it was treated as if the only amount coming out of your pocket was the $1,700 that you had to pay. How about the other $450,000 that came out of the reserves? Wasn't that your money? I mean, if it's not there, who is supposed to make it up? Somebody in Valencia? No, the only people who were going to make it up were you individually. That was as much your money as the money you were going to write a check for. And yet, here we are, as we point out, the reserves, we don't even know how underfunded they are, except we know that at best, you probably got 14 cents on the dollar and some scary monthly maintenance costs to come. And then, watch this, they put into the proposal a $20,000 in this current budget for landscaping. For landscaping in the reserves. But the point is, every time they wanted money out of the reserves for whatever they wanted for, these were never dedicated funds. If they needed the money, do you honestly think that that 20,000 is dedicated for the trees? No way, they'll hit it. And what we were saying was, it's time to stop this. It's time to deal with the real problems. It's time to just recognize that some of us have limitations. And the thing that bothered us the most was we could not trust the board. Harriet, I'll recognize you on the Q&A, but not before. Right, that's okay. So that's the issues that we're dealing with right now. This is it in a nutshell. Even more important than the vote that went down was our dealings with the board and whether or not we trust them. And on that, how about we do Q&A right now? 5, okay. All of those who want to, please stand up so that I can see who you are. Give us your name so that we can all recognize you. Harriet, you go first. Wendy, please second. Marty third. Hal fourth. Mike Roberts fifth. Ellen sixth. Who did I miss? Okay, go ahead.
I don't really, Harriet Freeberg. I don't actually know where to start.
Can everybody hear her?
Here, I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Harriet Freeberg. I've lived here from Actually, I don't know where to start because I have a lot of, I'm pissed off about a lot of things. Other women, and I was not chosen to go with Susan with the 4 other people to her office because supposedly there was only 4 people that were allowed to go because of the size of her office. Okay? I stood up in one meeting and I objected to 2 of the people that you chose that lived in the same house. And I said, each house has 1 vote. Why do you have 2 people in one house going with you to Susan's office? And I was told to sit down and be quiet. And that was the last time you ever saw me. That's number 1. Because I felt that I did have the ability to help the group.
Let me just answer you. When we did the committee.
You know what? That is over and done. I do not want an explanation. It is fair.
All I want to say is that the committee was chosen. Susan Wells said she would only work with 4. Do you remember that we put the names in a hat and drew out fairly 4 people to serve with Susan?
It was not fairly done. You had 2 people in one household.
When you draw from a hat, that is fairly done. That's all I want to say.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I feel that this community has gone down drain in the last, I would say, at least 5 years. I feel that we've had a board in the last 5 years, and I am not going to mention any names, that really didn't care. And because of that, everything just went by the wayside. Just went by the wayside. We have people in here that are not taking care of the outside of their homes. We supposedly, one of the responsibilities of the management company is to drive around in that little cart, you know? And if you have something wrong, whatever, it's supposed to be whatever, okay? Right. I have not violations. I have not seen whatever, but I did get a violation 1 month ago when my neighbor came to check up on Sky Marie, my dog. And it was a Sunday at 3 o'clock. On Wednesday morning, I got a ticket in the mail. A parking ticket. I most certainly did too, Al. I called you and asked you about it, okay? Okay, my question is now, we have all been here for many, many moons. Nobody really, people are fed up with the responsibility. Our clubs are diminishing. Wendy is exhausted. You know, Hadassah's exhausting. You know what I'm saying? I really would like to know what you people want. We have a lot of older people here. I cannot accept some of their excuses that they're old and who cares. That I cannot accept. But what I would like to know is, what is this new board finally once and... Well, I was bothering her. What is your platform? For instance, Mr. Hess, you are my neighbor. You have a magnificent house, a wonderful wife, and a delicious dog. Okay?
You ate it?
But you do not You do not do anything in this community. You're off in another community doing whatever. So you don't go to affairs, you don't showbiz, your wife is working. So you really don't know exactly what is going on internally with this business, with the things. Yeah.
Harriet, I can tell you that Peter and I have spent countless hours during the last 4 or 5 months talking about Villa Borghese problems. And as far as I'm concerned, I look at him as a willing and able compatriot on this group of people. He's been working as much as anybody has in this group of people.
Well, I would like to know, since we, for the last 7 years, have been sleepers, okay? How are we going to play catch-up in here?
Catch-up to what?
Catch-up to what? To make this community whole again, to make it beautiful. I mean, I could care less about
A
all these.
responsible board.
Well, you know, every board that runs leads you to believe that they are going to be responsible. So, I mean,
First of all,
I
let me answer. Let me answer that question. That was.
I really have the same question for you, Peter. I know you've been living here, you said, for 20 years. You said that? Is that correct? I met your wife at the JCC, and I thought I would have to bring showbiz to another place if we had a refurbishment. And she looked at me and she says, "There's no way." And I go, "And who are you?" She says, "We're not going to do refurbishment." She says, "I've been living here for 20 years. I said, "You're kidding me. Have you ever been to shows? Have you ever been in committees? Have
Yes,
you
I
worked
have.
on anything?"
Yes, I
What?
have.
Tell me.
We weren't interested in the shows.
I'm not saying you have to come to a show to make it right. I'm saying, what committee have you worked on, or what kind of thing have you done for Villa Borghese?
I've lived here for 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
And I will agree
Yeah.
that over the last 15 years or 16 years, I felt that the board was doing what was necessary. Only recently have I gotten involved because of the dishonesty of the board, and what I want to know is why, and I'll give you another thing. I've been on boards, okay? And I've been on boards, I've been a president of a temple. Now, I wasn't active in the temple until I felt that it was necessary. Now, I feel it's necessary to be on this board, because what we want to do, it was said very, very succinctly, all you should have is an honest board that is transparent, and let the people have their opinions.
Okay. I accept it. I have a question for everybody, okay?
Go ahead.
Can I ask you? Okay, I'm going to ask Greg. Greg, I sat on the Budget and Finance Committee, and not on it, my husband is, so we only can have one vote. I know you were there, you were very silent, you didn't say very much. If you have all these great plans, why didn't you talk to Bob Margolis?
Okay, thank you. Okay, you want to know the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Bob Margolis doesn't listen.
Okay.
Bob Margolis, when you try and tell him how a business should be run, here's the reaction. You know, when I was up north, I ran a business. I don't give a crap what you ran. Well, thank you. So we are...
Sound the same as Bob Margolis?
No, absolutely not. You don't understand. What you don't understand is that your people have a position that they will not give up here.
Our people? Who are our people?
Well,
Bob's not my person.
okay. So,
My husband's
all
my
right.
person.
So let's talk. Do you have a budget?
I'm on the board.
Do you have a budget? Yes or no?
Oh, you mean my... Yes.
Do you have
No,
a budget?
I do not have a budget.
Okay.
No. We talked
What
about
did
that.
I say to you last year at the Budget and Finance Committee? What did I say to you?
You said you'd do a very good job, thank you.
I said, why is your Why are your shows
I don't wanna-
Why are your shows not self-funding?
What do you mean they're not self-funding?
I don't know what that means either.
Okay.
Business dictates if you can't afford the entertainment, you lower your costs. Now, the expectation has been that this community continues to invest money that it doesn't have.
It's the only amenity in our whole community that has almost 300 people that come. And most times, and I have made money in many years, I've made over $5,000 2 years ago and other years, and the board has told me I can spend up, they can subsidize the shows up to $5,000.
Okay?
Okay?
So let's talk. Okay?
I don't want to talk about this
All
now.
right, so let's talk. Well, you brought it up.
I'll
You
talk to
opened
the
the door.
Budget and Finance Committee, but I don't want
I'm
to
not
talk
going
about
to be
this
able
now.
to be there tomorrow.
Well-
Listen, I asked you the question. What has taken place with, just a minute, what has taken place? This is what a board does.
Sorry. Okay, Paula, you want harmony. You said you like to see this community have
Pardon me.
harmony. I like to have harmony here too. But I think with you all concerned homeowners, you say you are, I think you're causing a terrible divisiveness in this community. We are divided now, and it's horrible. I love this community. I've been here for 19 years, and I really don't like what's happening.
You know, I just want to, please.
Yeah, but you are dividing it as well. Come on. You can go and talk to the board, you can have a mediator, you can have some kind of understanding with the board. I think what's happening is
Wendy,
terrible.
Wendy, I respect the job that you have done for the entertainment showbiz committee.
I can't hear you.
But when you came here tonight, you made a comment to me, and I expected you to make the comment. And that was that we were tearing it apart by starting the recall. I pointed out to you that there was no recall. There was no. It was a dead issue. We were waiting until the next election, and then the board took 2 actions. And yet, I don't hear a comment from you about something that apparently you've totally lost sight of. And that is, we didn't do this. The board did this by all of a sudden changing the game plan. All of a sudden, they went from 3 2-year directors to 4. And that 4th 2-year director gave them control until the end of 2019. And yet, as much as I love you, Wendy, that's the one issue I expected you to raise, because I try to point out to you that you were not right.
Why should I point that out? I think the bylaws, wait, just a minute. Can I just say something?
No, wait. I just want to finish my sentence.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said to you, I don't cut people off. This is still a community where we have to learn, after this is all over, how we're going to get back together
I'd love to know that
solve our problem.
I'd love to know that too.
And our problem right now is 7 people sitting on the board that will not get together with the rest of the community. You can look at the individuals, a budget, a reserve, a bocce court, all of this nonsense over. That's details. The real question is, how do you get the community to respect the board? And the answer is, the first thing that has to happen is that the board has to respect the community. And that's the issue. And I said my piece.
No, I just wanted to say something to Marilyn. Marilyn, I'm really sorry for what happened, and I don't understand why somebody would do that to you. But you have to say also, you've asked a lot of things for the board to do for you, like security, to get better equipment in the gym, and they did listen to you at different times. You have to admit to that, right?
No.
I don't think, okay. No?
And
They
I'll tell
did?
you what Richard did. And it was never publicized. I came in on the west side. A car tried to sideswipe me. and go in the gate before me. I got out of my car, I yelled and screamed at the gentleman, and I said, "Are you a resident?" "No, I'm not. I always sneak in this way." I immediately went home. I told him, "Leave now. Leave now." He could have had a gun. He could have had whatever. I shouldn't have approached him the way I did. I got home. I sent an email to the neighborgram.
That's useless.
Who in turn, and I CC'd it to Richard. The comment was, "You shouldn't have gotten out of the car." Did it ever go in the neighborgram? No. Was it ever brought up at a meeting that I asked it to be brought up at a meeting? No. The other day, I had someone come to my home.
When did this happen?
Back in the winter. This past winter.
Yeah.
The other day, and before that, I had a delivery truck come to my house that I did not call and authorize. Before that, I had a food delivery. I was home recuperating about 2 years ago. I had food delivered to me from a restaurant that I did not know.
Meryl, can we get back to the subject?
No, she asked me about.
But we have now put in security. We do have cameras.
No, the cameras don't work. I have complained to Richard. I have complained to Elizabeth. I have complained to the guardhouse, and nothing has ever been done.
I go into Elizabeth's office and I see the whole place.
No recording.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And just one more question. If you people do get on the board, are you putting an austerity budget? Is that what you're thinking of doing?
We'll discuss it when we get on the board. Certainly, the first thing that has to happen
is the Budget and Finance Committee will render its decision and make its proposal to the board. I haven't seen final numbers. I've got these numbers that they passed out, which showed $47.50 increase, but the impact of all of those issues on how much we can afford. Do I need another person working for me in the office? $37,284. That's the increase. That's the figure, $37,284. Do I need another maintenance person for $23,141? We're dealing with some major money issues here. You know? I'd like to go back to the question of. Let me just say.
Okay.
Wendy, I will call you to talk about this. Okay. You deserve an answer. Okay. But I would like to get to the people who I had recognized. Who was third?
I'm next. My name is Connie Bloom, and this question is for Paula.
Go ahead, Connie.
Paula, you talk about honesty. When I took over the clubhouse committee with Tessie, there was not one receipt. There was not a record of what you did. There was not anything to show us what you did previously. So what kind of honesty are you talking about?
I did not keep records. Sam Sasser.
Oh, you did not keep records? He wants records of everything.
And Sam Sasser had every record of everything that was done, to the point that Susan Wells sent him a letter saying he was the best property manager that this is verbatim, that she ever dealt with in his handling and keeping of those records. I had nothing whatsoever from day one to do with the records. Whenever I was quoted, I had to go to the board.
Okay, hold on. Here is the situation. We have to terminate this meeting by 6:30 in order to live up to our responsibilities to
But you know
the
what, Charlie,
library.
you're cutting me off the same way the board cuts you off.
No,
I want to talk about honesty. You're talking about honesty. Tell me about honesty.
I'm just making an announcement we were told that we had to leave after a certain amount of time. That is something that I have to live up to, otherwise I cannot have access again. But hold on a second. Marty in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't worry.
We'll buy you a toy tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
I don't want more toys. I'll buy you a toy.
Hello. Are they going to quiet down, Charlie? You're going to get them quiet? I have a question for, my name is Marty Burak. I have a question for Greg Kickin first. Maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you said that something about, I heard 2.3 and 2.6 million regarding the refurbishment. Did I mishear you?
Was that not the total number?
Huh?
1.7. 1.7 was the assessment. 1.7 was the assessment.
That's not the assessment, Charlie. That's the total. Part of that was the assessment, but I thought I heard Greg say 2.3 to 2.6.
No.
I'm wondering where that came from.
From Marty, the figure on the assessment was 1.6 or 1.7. 450,000 came out of the reserves.
Right.
The balance of it was to be raised from the homeowners,
Yeah, I know,
and that was whatever the figure was at
But the
that
total, you keep, first I thought he misstated the amount, and second, you're calling the whole thing an assessment. Part of it's an assessment, and part of it's from
Right.
the reserves.
Okay.
Okay, so let me move on, that's fine, it's not 2.3 or 2.6.
Okay,
Charlie,
yes.
I don't know why you're reluctant to tell people what you people stand for. Are you going to, if you seven unseat the board and replace them, are you going to do away with the 2-year terms, the staggered terms?
My feeling would be to do it as the first act of the board.
Is that the feeling of the board?
That's up to them
The
to,
proposed board?
I would think so.
Can you just quickly poll them? Yes? Anybody say different? Wasn't there a survey in the community some time back about staggered terms, and wasn't the bulk of the votes cast in favor of the staggered terms? Can you please keep quiet?
Mike.
I'm asking. I'm not making a statement. I'm asking.
Please sit down, Mike. I don't understand your question.
My question is, when there was a survey, did the majority of people vote for staggered terms or against staggered terms?
I have to check. I don't recall. I don't have an answer for you.
Right, it was a survey. I said it was a survey.
How long ago was this survey?
Within the past year, I think. I'm not sure. This lady seems to.
I had heard a comment, tell me if I'm right or not, but don't pin me down to the exact number. I had heard a comment that they had gotten about 110 responses to this question, and the overwhelming majority of those 110 people favored the staggered term, which represented something like 20% of the people who
Okay,
lived there.
but of those who voted to vote, then yours, Mr. Khan will correct us in a few minutes. But your recollection is that it was, in the survey, it was favored. Okay, that's what I'm asking. The second thing, or the third thing is... Are you people going to vote for any kind of refurbishment in the next year or so, to take place in the next year or so?
I would say this to you, Marty. We look at the refurbishment as part of the overall financial issue that has to be taken apart and put together to serve the most people within the community in a balanced manner. It's something
That's pablum, Charlie.
you can't
That's
just
pablum.
grab onto one thing by itself. You gotta
That's
look.
pablum, Charlie. Come on, you're dodging the question. Okay, thank you.
Marty and I go back about
All right.
60 years at this point.
First of all, this meeting has gone all over the place. Let's bring it back. When I was vice president, well, first of all, we moved here in 1999, and Hal Khan, I'm just Mr. Cellophane, no one knows me. Anyway, BC before the clubhouse. Anyway, when I was vice president, I went to Ansgar, he was the builder, and I went to his lawyer, and I asked, why do we have to vote for a whole board? Because other communities don't. His answer was, I guess I messed up. Then, when I became president, I went to our attorney, Josh Gersing, and I asked him, how can we change it? He said, buy the documents only. It's in 720. And here's why he told me. Because the next board could come up there and say, we're changing the rule. We're going to be in for 5 years. Another board for, that's why the president can't do it. That's it. Go to Congress and all the states. What they did was illegal in the beginning. They can't do that. I don't know if you went to it.
Let me finish.
And the next thing is that this meeting we're talking all about, it can be solved before you walk out the store. It's the end of your nose. The present board has to go back to the elections we've had for all these years. Ex post facto, that everybody runs. Now, the next board could try to change it. We did try once. It was defeated. I think in 2005 or 6, you could look it up. So all that the present board has to do is rescind whatever, which was illegal in the first place, and it's done. And everybody could run, and that would be the answer. It's so simple. But so and all they're trying to do is hold on to something they should not.
That's right.
Okay. Anybody else who had a question to Rick?
I'm new here, so you don't know my name.
Please give it to me.
And you don't need to know my name. But anyway.
I'd like before I let you speak, you'll tell me your name.
It's Connie Collegio.
Good. Thank you.
Now, I noticed, because I'm new here and I can see things from a different perspective than the people that are already here. There's a lot of personal issues. Marilyn, I was there that day when I saw what was done to you. And I was also there that day when I saw what was done to you, sir. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Charlie Friedman.
Very good. This community is fractured. Everyone plays a part. Whether we do it at the meetings or we do it online. We didn't agree with the refurbishment, the plan, the way it was proposed, the way they went about it, the cost, so on and so forth. So, what we should do now, well, really my question is this. This is where we are. Where do we go from here?
We need to get control of the community. At this particular point, the board...
That's not the question.
You asked...
The procedure.
I'm telling you, the procedure. Right now, based upon what this board has done, they have control of this community through December of 2019, based upon the fact that 4 directors are in the process of serving 2-year terms to that point. We can either try to fight them legally, which will cost us something like $40,000 out of our pocket as a minimum opening number, or we can get through this recall and grab control that way, if that's what the community wants. In order to do that, we need 280 approved recall petitions, and I am asking you that if you believe in our position, please come up here, ask for a petition and sign it. We will be very thankful if you do that and really appreciate it. Now, I see a hand over there, and I don't know who you are.
Then we won't need a lawyer.
If we get 280, we do not need a lawyer. The state will work for us. Mike Robbins. I'm sorry, let Ellen go first. She had a hand up before, and then Mike.
I have a loud voice, a teacher voice. Go ahead, okay? Number one is a comment. This is for everybody. Why is our dirty laundry being put on the next door? Why can't we do it through ourselves?
Because the board stopped us.
No. I mean, you're talking, but you don't have to put it on to everyone. Development has to know, and other people have to know what's going on. That is just a comment.
Not everybody's using it.
Marvin, I didn't recognize you. I heard your question, Ellen.
Why can't we just say to ourselves,
Ethics. Matter of ethics.
It's now.
There were only 5 people who were elected to the board, because nobody else wanted to run. Right. Where were all of you people? Why didn't you put your names up on the thing?
If you're, Ellen,
Nobody ran.
hold it, Ellen,
Don't talk, let them talk.
you're absolutely right. In 2011, I stopped being active in this community. Do you remember what happened in 2000? I'll tell you. Marilyn passed away, and I just said I had enough, and I was as wrong as anybody last year for letting them get away with what they got away with. And somebody here asked me to get involved, and I got involved.
Let me give it to you real simple. Let me give you a quickie, okay? I thought this place was being run properly. The reason I want to get involved is because this place is not being run properly. Now, where was I? And I'm talking about. I didn't know about it.
Okay. Thank you, Ellen. Mike Robbins, last question, and then we'll leave it.
Let me ask you a question. Everybody here knows in the first place, when you moved in here, we had docks that we went to. Okay, that's step 1. All right. Step 2 is, if any of you people were in business for yourself, okay, there was a shortfall. They signed contracts for $105,000. Now, why would you sign a contract and not get an estimate and bring it before the community? I'll tell you why. They thought they had us where they wanted and they were going to win. Well, they lost. So now we're short $105,000. All right? The next step is number 2. What happened to the mailbox money? Where is it? Does anybody know where it is? Okay, could somebody tell us? Nobody knows where it is. You know where it is, so where is it? Right? Okay. I just took a look at it, which I didn't know. Here is something. Amendment 32718 changed from 10,000 to 20,000. We used to have anything over 10,000. The community had a vote on it. Over here, they changed it to $20,000.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did, right over here. And it says to accommodate extra spending on attorney and on drawings used with photos of the clubhouse. Now, if I'm wrong, I got it.
Michael, the rule in the documents that said that a capital expenditure in excess of $10,000 needs 2/3 vote of 558 homes is still there, and that has not been amended.
Well, how does it say amendment here?
That did not have any effect on the documents.
All right.
Okay, I'm really sorry that I do not have the chance to listen to everybody. It just shows you that we need the opportunity to speak at board meetings, whether we agree or not. However, we're still a community that is going to have to learn how to act together over here. We need your help to do that. Please help us because that's the
Go for
biggest job we have. And thank you for showing up tonight. We really appreciate
I
it.
have one more question.
I have one more question.
One more question.
This is a community that's obviously like 19, 20 years old, and most of the people living in it are originals, except for the last few years. If you want younger people moving in, a lot of changes have to be done, okay?
Not younger people, 55 and over.
That's younger people when my next door neighbor's 97, okay? You want people that are 55 and 60 to be able to move in and be able to be here for 20, 25 years. There's a lot of changes that need to be done. Not everybody gets up every morning and just wants to be in the clubhouse. And these are things that you need to look at. I still work, so for me, I'm not so worried. But I have friends that have talked about it. Huh?
I think we should clear out the door anyway. Here.
Yeah, that's what, they were here for money, turn off the little box.
They came here to bid. What's your last name? Why not?
My name is Steve Feldman. I've been talking about website.
I'm going home to take
Sick
my
and telegrams, my phone all around the world. I've been running the website for 15 years. But I want to talk to you really about a teaching website where somebody could TV Yeah, but I want to do it online. I registered the greatest thing, budget online lessons. Everybody wants to online. I knew you could. This is